Welcome back to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman. Saturday night previewing Rutgers, Nebraska. Sunday night, 6:30. Have to check. I believe it's on BTN. Huge road game for Rutgers. Very difficult game. Walking into Lincoln, Nebraska. It's the last home game of the season, so a senior night for a Nebraska team fighting for an NCAA tournament berth. Right now, they're on the right side of the bubble by pretty much, I think, all projections. And Rutgers obviously beat them in overtime at the rack in January. But Nebraska is a different team at home. They're 9-0 in Big Ten play. They've lost once all season at home. I believe they're 17-1. What is their last? Yeah, they lost to Creighton. They got blown out. Obviously in-state rival. Lost by 29 to Creighton December 3rd. Otherwise, it's funny. They hosted Rider. They beat Rider by 14, but they beat Michigan State by 7 at home. They beat Indiana by 16, Purdue by 16. They had 14 threes in that game. They beat Northwestern by 6. They beat Ohio State by 14, Wisconsin in overtime by 8, Michigan by 20. Penn State by 19, despite just making 4 threes in that game. They shot 58 from 2, and they beat Minnesota by 18. So they've been killing teams at home. And the other thing about their offense is not just their offense. They're much better defensively at home in terms of their efficiency ratings. It's funny, in Big Ten play, they're 8th offensively and 4th in defense. I did not expect that. Without looking at that, they have a ton of shooters. They shoot 45% of their field goal attempts are from 3. We know Tommy Naga. He had a big game against Rutgers. Bryce Williams, he typically does. Bryce Williams played really well. But you have 6 shooters over 70 3-point attempts this season, and they're all shooting at least 35%, except for Gary, who's shooting Juwan Gary 33%. He only has 70 attempts. Everyone over 90 or more attempts is shooting over 35%. That is, when people talk about Rutgers, Rutgers has 1 3-point shooter over 35%, and it's Noah Fernandes, who is on fire right now. He's made 10 of his last 14. He's made 14 of his last 25. He's 16 of 34 in Big Ten play. He's a big key, I think, the rest of the way. They have to unleash him. He's a spark off the bench. Talk about that in a minute. But in terms of Nebraska, obviously a huge key is closing down on shooters and defending the arc. Bryce Williams, 109 attempts, 38.5%. He's 321st nationally. Rank Mast, who did not have a great game against Rutgers in the first game, big fella who steps out from 3. He's shooting 34.6% on 104 attempts. Tominagas, 36.6 on 161 attempts. Then you have, like I said, Gary at 32.9. He left the Rutgers game early, had 9 points. That game really shifted when he left hurt. They have Jamarcus Lawrence comes off the bench, 89 attempts, 34.8%. And then you have CJ Wilcher, who played really well against Rutgers the first game, 40% flat, 219th best nationally on 115 attempts. Have to defend the arc well. Rutgers really did a good job of pressuring the ball against Nebraska. Nebraska is not a good rebounding team. Rutgers has not been great in terms of keeping opponents off the offensive glass lately, and their national rank is not good. But they were able to really hurt Nebraska on the offensive glass in that first meeting, and Rutgers is really good on the offensive glass. In conference play, they are right now, in terms of offensive rebounding percentage, they're 4th in the conference. Nebraska is last. So Rutgers has a real opportunity here to keep the game. Listen, you're going on the road. You can't expect Rutgers cannot be expected to win this game. But how are they going to win this game? They have to dominate the glass. They were plus 14 the first time. They have to take advantage of second chance points, forcing turnovers, and scoring in transition off of turnovers. You have to get those kind of baskets. If Rutgers is going to, rely on the half court to win this game, they're not going to win. Nebraska is second in the Big Ten in 2-point defense, 46.9%. So you got to get some second chance points off of offensive rebounds. You got to get some transition baskets and score off for turnovers. That's a must. Rutgers is number one in forcing turnovers in the league. Nebraska is sixth. So you have to take care of the basketball. How's Rutgers going to get points in this game? I really think you're going to see Pico stick with that shortened rotation, that 8-man rotation that he shifted to in the win earlier this week against Michigan. That worked so well. And what does that leave the bench? Right? Let's go to Mawat Mag. He's missed 3 of the last 5 games. It's hard to say. Pico did mention, he had been practicing and then he hasn't practiced since his last game. So I think it's fair to say that, we don't know if we're going to see him the rest of the way. I think that's fair to question. And if that's the case, then you have a shortened rotation and then you have Hyatt in the starting lineup. So what does that mean for your bench based on the last game? That means a trio of Noah Fernandes, Austin Williams, and Oscar Palmquist. He didn't go. Pico did not go to Wolf or Agbole against Michigan. He went with Oscar, who pretty much was the 5. And it's not going to work against everybody. I don't know if that's going to work against Mast, who's a much better big than really Michigan has. And Rutgers did a really good job of containing him in the first game. That obviously was without Agbole. It was, Cliff had a really good game against Nebraska. That first meeting, he busted out. And I think 8 blocks in that game. So Rutgers needs a spark from the bench. And I think Noah Fernandes, Austin Williams, and Palmquist, they've all given Rutgers sparks at different times this year. And they're all veterans at this point. Austin's a 7th year. Noah is 5th year. Oscar, 4.5, 5 years. He started that half semester in 1920. Spring semester 2020. So it gives them experience. It gives them offense. Noah is their best 3-point shooter. They got to get him the rock. They got to set him up. He's got to hunt threes. That's got to be his job. That's his role now. Oscar, at times, even against Maryland, gave them some spark. I think it's fair to say he's a defensive liability, but if you can give them energy coming off the bench and be good offensively, that's something. And then Austin Williams, he's a bulldog. He's tough on both ends of the floor. He's a bigger guard. He's not a shooter per se, but he can get to the rim. He can draw contact. He plays within the offense. I think, has played well off of Jeremiah Williams and played well off of Noah. He fits. He doesn't really try to force it. So I kind of like that 3-man bench right there, especially on the road. Guys that have been there and guys that can score. So they're going to need big minutes from the bench, meaning not necessarily how many minutes, but just quality minutes off the bench. And then their starters. Cliff's going to have to show up in a big way. I think he's got to be confident, after dominating Mass the first matchup. He held Mass to just 4 points, 8 rebounds. What did Cliff have in the first game? It was something pretty fierce. Cliff in the first game had 14 points on 6 of 11 shooting, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks. I got that confused. But he was a real force down the stretch in that game. But they had balance in that win. Mag played really well. He had 16 points. Austin Williams had 11 points and 6 rebounds, 2 assists in that first matchup. Derek Simpson played well with 14 points. He was just 3 of 13 from the field, but he had 8 assists, 8 rebounds. That was a gutty performance by him. Andre Hyatt had 17 points. He was 4 of 11 from 3. He was really hunting threes. Rutgers was 11 of 29 from 3 in that first outing, 38%. Nebraska was 37%, but they made them work for it. 13 of 35 attempts. Nebraska is a good, very good free throw shooting team. Rutgers has to keep them off the line. They have to defend without fouling. They're going to have pressure. Full court pressure is going to have to generate some stuff. Speed Nebraska up. But the pressure, the full court pressure is dangerous because you can't let Nebraska beat you with passes that's going to set up shooters. So that's, I wouldn't expect a ton of it. But he's going to have to, I think Pikiell's going to have to pick his spots with his own. He's, he's going to need to coach his ass off to win this game. Let's be honest. The bench is going to have to step up. Rutgers is going to have to be very committed defensively in terms of not allowing shooters to get off and get in open spots. You can't allow easy baskets, and you have to generate some on the road. The place is going to be cranking. Lincoln on a Sunday night. Nothing else is going to be the focal point of Lincoln, Nebraska on Sunday night, other than senior night. And this is their best team in years. Fred Hoiberg's got them cooking. This is a huge game for them. They are, let's see, 20-9 overall. They're 36 in KenPom. I mean, this is a tournament team right now. Rutgers would be, Rutgers is 91 in KenPom. It's probably a quad 3 game for them. So this is, and it's their last home game. And then they have Michigan. I mean, Nebraska's got a real opportunity here to finish 12-8 in the Big Ten and 22-9 in the regular season. They just have Rutgers and Michigan left. So it's a big game for them. They're going to be up for it. They lost at Ohio State on Thursday by 9 points, and they had won 4 games in a row before that, beating Michigan, Penn State, and Minnesota at home and at Indiana. So they've had a pretty good schedule in terms of their difficulty. But, this is a team that beat them already. They're going to be looking for payback. This is definitely going to be a Hornets Nest type game. I mean, Rutgers has to be focused, has to share the basketball from the get-go. They need to work the shot clock. Nebraska is a really high assist rate. They share the basketball really well. They will, make Rutgers work defensively. They're going to have to rotate and pick up shooters. Assist rate, they're 37th nationally, 58.2%. And Rutgers, when they share the basketball, they're a different offense. They need ball reversals to be able to drive. They can't just, will Nebraska try to adjust and take the high ball screen away? That's what's worked really well for Rutgers. We'll see. Derek Simpson struggled of late. They really need Derek Simpson to step up in this game. On the road, he played, he really moved the ball well against Nebraska in that first meeting. So it's funny, I was laughing because in terms of the rotation, Pikiell shortened the rotation. People have been screaming for him to tighten the rotation for a long time now. And then he shortens the rotation. And then I get all these questions and you see all these comments on social media. Well, what happened to this guy? Why isn't this guy playing? Why isn't Gavin playing? Well, he shortened the rotation. And he said after the game that he felt like those 8 practiced the best and they deserved the most minutes. We'll see how Gavin bounces back, mentally. He played okay in that second half. When he did get run, he didn't get into the game until it was, 13 minutes to go. It was a blowout. He took a really bad 3 on a contested 3, about 3 feet off the line, maybe 2 feet. And then he knocked down a wide open one and made a really good move by taking a dribble to get into a shot. So he's got to take quality shots. And I think if he starts taking quality looks, he's going to get back more minutes. But we'll see. He's going to get an opportunity tomorrow night. Rutgers needs scoring off the bench. They need their 3-point shooters are off the bench, aside from Andre Hyatt, who has kind of tapered off a little bit from behind the arc. So, what does this team have to play for? What does this team have left? They certainly showed they have some left in the tank Thursday night against Michigan. Have to move past that, and it's a quick turnaround here on a Sunday night in Nebraska, and then you're on the road next week at Wisconsin. These are going to be 2 difficult games, but they should have all the confidence in the world. They really have nothing to lose, and maybe this team needs that. Maybe they're going to be looser. They're not going to be tight, and they'll just go out there and play, And listen, they can compete with anyone when they play a certain way, when they play Rutgers defense, and when they play together offensively. So, I wouldn't be shocked if they win this game. It's not likely, but I do think they can win. It's a tall task, and they're going to have to be consistent. They can't fall behind by double digits. They can't give up kill shots. A kill shot is a 10-0 run or more. They can't fall into 5-6 minute scoring droughts. and they're going to have to get to the line some. That free throw differential, that 3-point differential, those are going to be really telling to watch because Nebraska can, bury teams with plus 15 from the line, plus 15 from the three-point line, either or. So you got to stay within striking distance there. You got to capitalize on the offensive glass. You got to force turnovers. You got to take care of the basketball. We'll see what happens. I'll be back Sunday after Sunday night for a rapid reaction as always. And let me just double check that Rutgers is playing on BTN because I will not forgive myself if I give the wrong information. They are, let's see. Of course, it's not popping up. Okay, let's see. They are, on the Big Ten Network, Sean Morris and Kevin Kluger. And I would be remiss if I ended this by not pointing out that on Saturday, Rutgers officially announced Dylan Harper as part of the program. He actually signed back in November, announced on Saturday his birthday. Who knew Dylan Harper was born for March? Literally looking forward to his arrival with Ace Bailey and the rest of his class, Lathan Somerville, Dylan Grant, and Bryce Dortch. But haven't given up on this season either. And I'm looking for what type of energy, what type of effort is this Rutgers team going to give in a very tough environment on Sunday night. But welcome Dylan Harper officially. Let's go.